Random Fiction, Spring Edition by Bryan Hicks. Well, review readers, spring has sprung. And I know this because my left nostril hasn't worked right since we made that switch from winter. But despite the dried, allergy-aggravating riverbeds of pollen covering our parking lots and cars, tons of Jones County residents are excited about the upcoming season. I've heard nothing but talk of fishing, water sports, sunbathing, baseball, and all the other springtime events that people look forward to every April. So in this week's column, thought I'd try something a little different. And now for your scanning pleasure, I present you a random, spring-related slice of fiction to get you and yours ready for yet another great outdoor season. Helena quickly rose up in her bed as the first few rays of morning sun began to infiltrate the cracks in her beige window drapes. The nearby open window allowed a healthy dose of crisp, cool springtime air to flow in and around the room. Without hesitating, Helena slid her long, slender legs out from under her comforter and allowed her feet to hit the chilly, hardwood floor. In a single quick motion, she managed to work her feet into a pair of sandals and even slip her arms into a light blue robe that had been lying on the vacant space of bed beside her. As she stood, she glanced at the red, velvety sheets and at the very spot where her robe had been all night. After a brief sigh, she closed the robe over her naked frame, turned and headed for the glass doors across the room. As she pushed open the double doors, a swell of cool air engulfed her. She took a few paces further onto the deck and stared at the beautiful blue waters that stretched out in front of her. As beautiful as the scenery was, she couldn't help but think of Tobias. He had been gone for many moons, and it was this day that he had promised to return to her. A sensuous chill crept down her back as she pondered about her lover. He was a rugged, no-nonsense type of man, but also a man who at times could be as gentle as the most expensive toilet paper. On the job, he ruled his workers with an iron fist, but at home, when it was just the two of them, he loved her with the hands of an angel. The images of sweet Tobias swirled around inside her pretty head as she made her way to the steps of the deck. Her foot slid from the final step, and she pressed it down into the warm, silvery sand. Just the feel of the heat from the gristles of sand under her foot took her back to the many events that she and Tobias had took part in on this very beach. He was the love of her life, and the arrival of spring, as well as his impending arrival, had rejuvenated her soul. Stepping slowly through the sand, Helena proceeded to a nearby rock. As she climbed upon it to bask in the early morning sunshine, she continued to daydream of her beau. She remembered the first time they had plundered booty together. It had all been so thrilling. Thinking of the swashbuckling, the firing of the cannons, the way Tobias would wink at her every time he gutted a poor sailor with his sword caused Helena to crack a small, anticipatory smile. At least she thought Tobias was winking at her those times. With his one eye, it was always hard to tell if he was winking or just blinking. Without that other eye, really no frame of reference. But Helena didn't care. She loved him. She saw through all of that. Helena recalled her parents' reaction when she told them that she had fallen in love with a marauder of the sea. A pirate? Do they even still have those? Her father inquired in a loud, hostile manner. She had tried to explain to him that Tobias was a real pirate that could provide for her, not one of those Somali knockoffs you hear about all the time on the news. But nothing seemed to ease his nerves. Helena's mother was also unsupportive of her daughter's decision. Helena, for crying out loud, it's 2010. Marry a lawyer or a doctor. I don't even understand how you found a pirate to begin with in this day and age. It was at that point a flood of tears poured from her mother's eyes, but Helena could not help it. After all, it was her mother that had told her many times over the years, you can't help who you fall in love with. I mean, look at me. I'm married to this fat, drunken tub of manure you call a father. But none of that mattered anymore. It was all in the past. All that mattered to Helena was being able to hold Tobias close again. She thought of how she would feel when she finally got to rub her fingers through his greasy, unkempt hair. She thought of how happy she would be once again glossing up his wooden leg with a can of Pledge. She thought of how wonderful life would be for her again, for them both. And she knew it wouldn't be long because in the distance the visage of his ship, the Scurvy Possum, was slowly coming into focus.